Public Q&A presents Ask Reddit question. Teachers of Reddit, what was your "oh fuck that's impressive, but I still have to punish the kid" moment? First 6 months of teaching. Grade 8 English. Kid did a 360 on one leg of his chair. I was impressed but gave him a timeout because it was dangerous. Part of the requirement for timeout was that students identify what got them sent out in the first place. I did a mad 360 on my chair, but Miss said it wasn't safe. I have still got that timeout sheet on my desk too. 5 years later. Yes, Ethan, it was a mad 360. But it was still dangerous. Fucking Got to love the smart assery of youth. When I was in grade 9 I got detention, and as part of this sheet I had to fill out, it had a question: what does your father do for work? I answered, he watches paint dry. It was true. He was a NACE coding inspector for a non-destructive testing company. I would like to know how to do this. I get bored with normal leaning. I am doing online school, so who's going to know? Fall a lot today. I learned you don't fall no more. I learn how to catch by just chucking shit in the air. Brute force does the job. I can't remember the question that was asked of my niece, about 6 at the time, but she stood up in the class and said Sister Bernadette's a bitch sister, as in a nun. The teacher told my sister normal sister, not a nun, that whilst she couldn't condone the behavior, Sister Bernadette was in fact a total bitch. They had a good laugh about it. My real sister told our sister Mildred that she was a bitch. She also hit her back when she got slapped. My sister was such a BA. I had a classmate jump on the teacher's computer and visit a website that would go full screen and make it seem like it was a Mac now instead of a PC. It was April's Fool's Day and this was his prank. This was in like 2003, so security wasn't the conversation it is today. Anyway, he still got in trouble. The teacher got really angry and kind of yelled at him to sit down in the corner. She called in the vice principal, then the principal, then the on-campus police office, and then when he was good and terrified, all four turned to him and said April Fools and let him off the hook. He got his punishment though. He was terrified. Kid in one of my classes visited a prostitute's Facebook profile on the teacher's computer. When confronted, he said, "What? She wants to be my friend." Of course, the teacher had to report the whole incident so as to protect himself, and he honestly just looked disappointed. Maybe the teacher looked disappointed because he had also thought the prostitute wanted to be his friend. I enjoyed this story. Thanks for sharing. The first time I caught students cheating, it was 2 8th grade girls that had all of the same wrong answers on a vocabulary matching test. I pulled the girls aside after class to ask about it, and after some sheepish grins they both admitted that a third girl, their friend, who was an A and student, had fed them both incorrect answers on purpose. She screwed over her friends because she was pissed they were mooching. For punishment, the first 2 girls got to keep their very poor test grades. The mastermind got "your friends are mad at you" as her punishment. Natural consequences. I had a girl tap me on the shoulder and tell me that I had gotten a question wrong. It should be C, photosynthesis. So I flip back and I look at the test, and I have B, photosynthesis. We had different forms of the test. I said thanks for catching that. She copied all of my other answers and it didn't go well for her. Found the girl on LinkedIn last week. She's an elementary school principal now. Not a teacher, but I work in IT in a big school. Guy came in asking us if we could put his PDFs in the right order. It was a bunch of comic book artwork that was part of his A-level art project. So we slotted all the pages into a nice PDF, and he promptly went off and printed several hundred copies to sell to his mates. We pulled him as he was by far the biggest print user for the day, and he got some shit for it. Last I heard of him, he was demoing his comics at a festival in Germany, and doing rather well. My husband used to work in after-school care. One time he saw two kids starting to fight in the sandpit. He headed over to try to calm them down, but while he was on his way, one kid ran at the other, who just calmly flipped the first kid over his head like a textbook martial arts move. My husband said he had to stop himself from shouting, "Wow! Great job!" I fought a lot as a kid because I was fat and prideful. I learned how to throw someone over my shoulder early at about 8 years old, and that became my move until I got in trouble years later because someone tattled. No one ever believes the bigger kid didn't start the fight. Fellow fat kid. Got bullied a lot. My dad always told me never hit back. You're bigger, so they'll always assume it's your fault if you hit back. I played football and wrestled and could take care of myself for the most part. Well, freshman year of HS I had this kid who was like half my size stealing shit from me. I demanded it back. Basically said I was giving him the chance to give it back before I told on him. We were across a table from each other, and he started calling me a pussy and whatever. I just kept demanding my stuff back. He said, "Say that one more time, and I'll hit you." I did. He did. Then he jumped on the table and popped me again. I still haven't touched him. Then, he jumps at me and I move out of the way, causing him to fall face first on the tile floor. I tell him to fuck off and turn around. He pops me twice in the back of the head before he's grabbed by a teacher. We both got suspended for 3 days. The normal principal who liked me was gone, and we dealt with his assistant. She didn't even talk to the teacher that witnessed it. Just automatic suspension for fighting. After the fact, I am explaining what happened to my dad, and he's just as perplexed as I am. Then he said, "You know what? If a kid like that is picking on you and you're going to get suspended anyway, screw it. Knock his ass into next week." Yup. Fuck zero tolerance policies. That assistant principal made a bad call. The problem with zero tolerance policies is that they can't make a call, good or bad. Zero tolerance policies encourage fighting back. Might as well if you're going to get in the same amount of trouble. And to my dad, and he's just as perplexed as I am. Then he said, "You know what? If a kid like that is picking on you and you're going to get zero tolerance is bullshit, it prevents kids from standing up for themselves. Rather, it incentivizes it in my experience. If I am going to get suspended for 3 days no matter what because someone decided to kick my ass, I am going to slap their shit right back so they don't try it again." And zero tolerance policies are how a bully got his head busted open going through reinforced glass in my junior high school. So much blood. Bullied kid was going to get suspended either way, decided to make it an epic beating. Also, don't pick on the kid who is clearly having a rough time at home. You may get your ass handed to you spectacularly. Yeah. I was a bit of a chicken shit until I realized that none of the little bitches at school could hit me as hard as my dad did on the regular. What happened next? Did you knock his ass into next month? So many unanswered questions. So the mini after story is that we have to meet with the principal before we're allowed back into school after a suspension. He talked to the teacher who witnessed the whole thing because they were both football coaches. The teacher backed me up completely. Said I never touched the other kid, and seemed to be pretty controlled the whole time despite being hit in the face. I was let back in, and the other kid got 2 days added to his suspension. I was told they then had an admin meeting about interviewing staff on site, and getting facts before making discipline decisions. Oh, and that kid stopped screwing with me. He basically ignored me the rest of the year. I think he realized how lucky he was that I didn't fight back, and that I was now enabled to do so. That's exactly it. By late high school, I was moderately popular, and I threw shot put so people didn't mess with me, but earlier, and I had those experiences repeatedly. The little shits learned they could provoke me into a fight, and the teacher would always take their side. All I wanted to do was read in a corner of the playground, but bored kids don't comprehend the concept of let sleeping dogs lie. As young teens, my buddy and I used to practice simple judo moves on each other with no training because we were idiots. Then one time, I was jumped by 3 guys I knew from school, and one got me around the neck from behind. I executed an almost flawless over-the-shoulder throw, whatever that move is called when you know what you're doing without even thinking about it, and all 4 of us basically stopped and high-fived each other over how awesome that just was. Then I took a pretty good beating and grew up to brag about it on the internet one morning. The end. This is the closest thing I have ever seen to a Jake Peralta story. No doubt, no doubt. Cool. I got into a fight with my sister once. I ran at her, and she kicked me under the chin, and literally sent me flying. I wasn't even mad anymore because it was so cool. Accidentally did something like that in high school once. I am bad at sports, like bad, but this one time, we were playing soccer, and I happened to kick the ball at the same time as a big buff jock type guy. I swear to God, and it sounds like something out of a cartoon or something, but my foot and the ball apparently worked as a perfect wedge that sent him into a full-on front flip and landed on his ass. We both just stood there shocked for a moment, then laughed like idiots. It was like for a split second we wandered into the realm of wacky physics. Yeah, I remember there was one time, when I was an educator at outside school care, where a violent 3rd grade boy started kicking and punching a 1st grade girl. I am running over, and before anyone else knows it, this little girl spins around this little shit's arm, and puts him in an arm hold. Pain compliance hold. I don't know the term. The little shit goes crazy trying to kick her, but I grabbed him, and moved him away, and turned to the girl. She thought she was in trouble, though I was nothing but complimenting and reassurance she did the right thing. Man, I don't miss that school. I probably would have said it anyways, lol. Outstanding move. Finish him. Flawless victory. Toasty. My uncle taught his son and me how to fight at a young age, probably because he himself had been a bit of a bully and didn't want us to fall prey to people like him, lol. In middle school, some guy tried to attack my cousin by charging at him. My cousin used a move that essentially worked the kid's momentum against him, which resulted in the kid having his face smashed into a bus. The school tried to suspend my cousin for fighting, but my uncle pointed out that 1, my cousin couldn't have even used the move if the kid hadn't been charging him, and 2, no family of his would allow another person to lay hands on them without trying to stop them. This was back before my school days, where zero tolerance policies came into place, so the school let it slide. I was a new teacher at a school that had a demerit system. Do something bad, get a demerit. At the end of the week, get punished for every demerit over 3. One kid talked like a sailor. I gave lots of warnings to prevent him from being punished to hell and back, but that didn't faze him. So he got demerits. Friday rolled around. Kid. Charlie 24,601, how many demerits do I have? Me. 4. Kid. What? What the hell for? Me. Swearing. Kid. That's fucking bullshit. Kids are great at proving your point with things like this. Reminds me of a friend in high school. Suck my dick, other student. Turns around to see the dean standing behind him, waiting for his student ID, well, fuck. Dean gives a seriously. Look. Had that friend on my cross-country team. Man, fuck 16 by quarters, one of our most difficult practices or workouts. Connor, 15 push-ups. Coach, what the fuck? Make it 30. Coach was really trying not to crack up. This isn't really the same, but once I was at the skate park when I was a teenager and two, maybe 8-year-olds, were fighting, and one of them yelled out "fuck off" or "I'll suck your dick." I don't think he'd quite figured out swear words yet. Maybe he wanted to suck dicks. Well, now you have 5. Back in the day, my friend found an exploit in the school laptops that allowed him administrator access. It was pretty clever. He brought it up to IT. Problem was, it was very obscure, and no one would have been looking for such an exploit unless they wanted to bypass the school's security. So he got suspended. I am sorry, I have learned my lesson. Next time I discover a potentially dangerous issue somewhere in the school in my pursuit for knowledge, I won't tell anyone. This is why it is important for companies to pay bounties for found exploits. Not paying bounties, or even worse, prosecuting white-hat hackers, creates a perverse incentive for people not to report exploits, or to even sell them to people who might cause harm. I did the same thing in school, except that I didn't report it to IT. I used the admin privs to install Quake 2 onto the library computers. And we would set up LAN games there when other kids were in the library computer lab. I told everyone how to Alt+Tab was good fun. But we did get caught, and we were banned from using the library computers unsupervised. Loaded it on other computers in the school using the same exploit. Was great. Similar story. I was in the first generation of students to have iPads rolled out for educational use, and by the time I got to middle school, they had this really shitty app called Self-Service, which basically served as a school-approved app store while removing the real one. So me and my stubborn stupidity figures out a way to get that shit off, and get the actual app store back, you know, so I can further my already unproductive streak. Anyway, a teacher almost finds out, so I go and tell the IT guy, this young, 20-something-year-old dude, and he just goes, "Wow. Honestly, dude, might as well just keep it on there. I am not paid enough for this." And that is the story of how I got caught for impersonating the superintendent of technology of my school to AppLink. Haha, my school used self-service too. It was only a few years ago. I also found out a way to bypass it and use the App Store. I decided not to tell anyone and just downloaded all the games I wanted onto my iPad. Fragile egos. I teach a tech certification class here for a local nonprofit. Just a week or so ago, I was walking the students through using Task Scheduler in Windows when my phone started to blow up with emails. Turns out one of the students created a dozen scheduled tasks to send me an email every 5 minutes. Title: Cats, 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 cats. Body: Cats, 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 cats. You get the picture. Needless to say, his punishment came in the form of a scheduled task running as a service on his PC that randomly ejects the optical drive at different intervals. He has not figured out why this is happening yet, and it's forcing him to learn how to troubleshoot an issue, so I see it as a win. Edit. This blew up. I want to let everyone know I would love to engage or talk about this, but it will be a while as I am moving to a new condo today, so I'll get around to responding when I am able. Thanks for all of this though. Eases my anxiety. God, that reminds me of back in the day, when we had to take computer literacy in middle school. In the dark ages of the late 80s, we had a student teacher who was observing or helping in that class, and one of the things she had to teach us was how to do code in BASIC. Yeah. That's how old I am. I would write all kinds of crazy programs to leave her insane messages after class was over. Fortunately, she thought it was funny and not offensive, although the most offensive thing I probably coded it to say was "cow farts smell like sulfur candles." How to do code in BASIC, yeah. That's how old I am. I am not proud to say that the last time I had to code in BASIC was yesterday. You mean the only coding skills I ever acquired are still relevant? Wow. If you can pretend to be a BASIC expert, you can probably weasel your way into any government office in any Western country, LOL. How is that offensive? What else do cow farts smell like? A Falcon 9 explosion. Better than pig farts. Food exhaust. Too much devil, not enough egg. Uncle's percolated finger trick. Might I suggest a Starship explosion instead of a Falcon 9 explosion? Falcon 9 uses RP-1 for fuel, but Starship actually uses methane or cow farts. I am so jealous of that, though. Our computer literacy courses in middle school in 2004 was all about writing a proper bibliography and using Microsoft Word. All of my arguments are on Facebook, where posting a source means that you're lost. Nobody uses MLA format. We use MMA format, where we try to beat the snot out of each other, and whoever wins the fight is declared a violent brute, who shouldn't be trusted, and whoever loses is declared a candy-ass baby who can't win fights. I wish we'd have been exposed to programming as a viable career path earlier. I wrote rudimentary calculator programs on my TI-83 in high school, but when I tried to go deeper, I got lost quickly, and I declared that computer science was too complicated. I have since changed that viewpoint and become a full-stack web developer, but there's so much that I don't know. I really wish I would gotten a great start when I was a kid in middle school. That would have been a great leg up. I remember when I did phone tech support for a certain fruit-branded computer company. I had configured a mail rule to forward all my emails, but I accidentally added my own email to the forwarder. So if I got an email, it would get forwarded to me, which would get forwarded to me again, rinse and repeat. I nearly brought down the whole email server. I met my then boyfriend for dinner, and he was still laughing because that day he'd had to resurrect the email server due to a guy returning to work from vacation, but failing to disable his out-of-office auto-reply. This wouldn't have been a problem except that he emailed someone else who was still away, and the auto-replies bounced back and forth till the server went down in flames. Something like that happened at a company I worked at a couple years ago. There was a new intern who decided to send out an inspirational quote which included a typo to everyone, and I mean everyone on the company address book, including president, CEO, board members, and you probably guessed it, 7 or 8 different automated help desk email accounts. The help desks replied back and forth to the entire address book until the servers shut down. My boss had to come tell me to calm down because the intern heard me howling with laughter from across the office, and it was making him sad, haha. I worked for a company with 6 or 7 locations, and someone lost their favorite mug in one of them. They sent a "have you seen my mug" email to everyone in the entire company, about 2,000 people accidentally rather than just the 100 or so at his site. The IT guys thought this was hilarious, so started photoshopping the mug into as many photos as they could find, and replied all, with the mug going on a journey all around the world he was running with the bulls, on top of Niagara Falls, skydiving, etc. People ran with it, and there were stories about seeing him rob banks, pictures of him in magazines, people drew pictures. This thing really had legs. After the second day of basically 2,000 people not doing any work and learning how to Photoshop, the CEO had to put his foot down and send out a company-wide email asking for people to stop clogging the email server and to get back to work. He's a good guy though, and a few months later at the Christmas party everyone got the normal goodie bag with a bunch of the normal amount of cool stuff in it, as well as a copy of the mug that had been on the Great Adventure. The mug was a football team from Melbourne. They must have been extremely confused when someone ordered 2,000 mugs. It was a super fun time. Sounds like an incident I had at another job. Our sales manager used to prepare quarterly sales emails to all our clients. We had a program that allowed you to send bulk emails, and it would stagger them over weeks so the email server wasn't overloaded. He accidentally sent all 7,000 at once, each with a 10 MB PDF attachment. That's 70 GB of emails, and we only had 50 GB free space on the server. We had to purge the entire sent email queue to get it back up and running again. I remember the computers at my school were named in a specific way. A prefix, the room number, and the computer number formatted somehow, I don't fully remember. There was a command for shutting down a computer remotely with a timer and a message. I would make the other kids do the chicken dance to get me to abort. If they didn't believe it, I would send another message that I was watching them. It was hilarious seeing them reluctantly do it. I never bragged or told anyone about it until now. It was my own little prank. I had a kid who bullied me in my C++ class. I knew he'd goof off for a while and try to do his work and submit it right at the end of the class. So I would ping bomb him and make his computer shut off 5 minutes before class ended. He'd throw a fit because he hadn't saved and he was rushing to finish. Good memories. Don't fuck with nerds. A student in one of the schools I work at had as close to a full-service bar and smoke shop set up in a couple of lockers as you can get. The lockers were located in a corner of the hallway that is easily obscured and difficult to monitor. The kid just slapped his own locks on there and nobody noticed. When he was caught, the lockers were found to have several makeshift shelves in them, and contained several bottles of hard liquor, some solo cups, and paper shot glasses in one of them. The other contained a backpack containing some weed and various other drug paraphernalia for sale. The kid had quite the little enterprise going, and God knows how much money he made before he got caught. I was shown pictures of what was in the locker, and I had to admit, given what he had to work with, it was quite an impressive setup. Of course, I am sure he was brought up on a significant number of charges. But still, even the principal had to give him credit for the setup. That kid's going places. Probably jail, but I hope he managed to stay out of it long enough to apply those business skills in a meaningful way. Oh, definitely jail. Weed still isn't legal here, and this happened before it was legal for recreational use anywhere. Even if this were in a state where recreational weed is legal now, he still had enough stuff on him to put him away for a good long time. Possession, distribution in a school setting, the quantity of stuff he had on him, the charges related to the alcohol, the list goes on. I know he was in his mid-teens. I would be willing to bet that the best he could hope for was being charged as a juvenile and being released when he hit 18. But if they charged him as an adult, it's very possible that the kid could still be in jail. But we all did say the same thing. If he gets out and is given an opportunity to apply those skills to a legal business, he's going to make bank. I wish I were better at describing his setup, because it was a sight to behold. Yeah, unfortunately he broke the one biggest rule for selling drugs multiple times over. Never break 2 laws at once. When I sold at this time in my state, weed was even only a misdemeanor. ID check all my lights before leaving, never speed, never bring anything that's a felony across town. I am glad someone else gets it. I always get blank stares when I say this. The more crimes you commit simultaneously, the more likely you'll get caught for one of them, which gets you caught for basically all of them. To minimize your chance of getting caught committing crimes, you must minimize the amount and frequency of your crimes. Doesn't mean you can't go buy weed, just know you are extremely vulnerable when transporting it, and so you must appear to be the perfect citizen. Kind of why white guys have an advantage when doing shit like this. A black guy can do everything right, and still get pulled over cause the cop thought he looked funny. And the kid in my school went to the principal cause someone stole the weed out of his locker, and he wanted to press charges. It wasn't legal here at that time. Kids are resourceful at everything except getting caught. That's because you only hear about the ones that got caught. I can tell you my late 90s scheme in school. Never got even close to caught. We'd buy sheets of acid, then split them up into single hits. Then I would buy the value packs of 10 packs of Trident gum. You'd be able to disassemble the packs, put one hit into each small piece of gum and rewrap them. Then put the entire pack together like it was brand new. Then we'd sell single hits for $7, or an entire 10 strip for $60. Would just seem like you were giving out pieces of gum to your friends in class. Some friends, I would be generous to give an entire pack to. Meanwhile, at least 15 to 20 high school kids were tripping on acid every day. I can't imagine wanting to do acid at school, much less doing it and not getting caught. It's not a subtle drug. Also, time elongation at school plus the bad vibes of fear of being caught are a recipe for disaster. To be fair, the same can be said for a lot of criminals in general. I am an art teacher. Had a student submit his art book with a great variety of different dick drawings. One was an impressive concoction of 2 cat heads as the testicles and a detailed furry shaft. As is was assessment, I had to ring his mother to let her know. Me. Your son has handed in his assessment, and it has penises drawn all over it, mother. I am sorry you find my son's style of art offensive. Me. Personally, I am not offended, however it does go against our school's graffiti policy. Edit. To clarify, this was in a public school in Australia. Public schools have book policy rules, and drawing giant dongs are classed under the graffiti policy on all property even the students own. And it is definitely a big no-no on assessment, even art. The student was supposed to be creating a design for sculpture in the school. Let's just say he had some interesting ideas. Sounds like the style was quite good, it's the subject of the art that was questionable. I still wonder about his motive, as he knew I was going to see it. And for creativity. Rolling on the floor laughing. Haven't you heard of asserting dominance? He didn't even have to show his own penis, just make you flip through dozens of them. Kind of a dick move. Were you teaching the kid from Superbad? Could have been anyone. Something like 8% of kids do it, but whatever. Do you know what kinds of food are shaped like dicks? The best kinds. However, it does go against our school's graffiti policy. How? It isn't graffiti if it's in the art book. This was my first thought. How can it be against a graffiti policy if, by definition, it isn't graffiti in the first place? My coworker and I discovered that one of our students was running an underground crime syndicate selling individual icebreaker mints for 50 cents a pop. We agreed not to punish him or inform the administration, but we did confront him privately and told him he needed to stop before it got him in trouble. He had about a half-dozen employees, and was selling at every grade level by the time we put an end to it. Kid was a C student at best, but he's definitely going places. Breaking Bad theme starts. What has better profit margins, selling meth, or reselling individual mints for a 1000% markup? It's all about volume. Mints won't move at such a high scale. Got to diversify business operations. Probably the meth, just because of the expanding market and continuous upping of the amount per customer. If someone gets hooked on mints, they just start buying them at the store in bulk. I heard about one kid who was selling imaginary friends to the first graders for $1 each. He too is going places. Maybe not good places, but he's definitely going. Selling overpriced gum was my go-to in high school. I had to have an accounting notebook, but I never had employees. I also used to sell parts of my lunches. Not a teacher, but teacher adjacent. I was on recess duty with a bunch of 7 to 9-year-olds one day, and this kid ran up to me to point out a couple of other kids fighting. I turn around and yep, looked like a fight. As I went over there, a couple things stood out. The two fighting were besties, so it was weird that they were fighting, and they were making sound effects. Dudes were playing out some epic Star Wars battle, complete with stick sabers and the blaster noises and everything. Their stunt coordination was on point, y'all. I had to make them put down the sticks and holster their finger guns by the rules. I should have sent them to the principal to be suspended for the finger guns, but that's ridiculous for consensual play acting, so no, but commended them on how real it all looked. Glad you took a sensible stance on the finger guns. Suspension for that is draconian. That reminds me of the kid who was either expelled or suspended for biting his Pop-Tart in the shape of a gun. Right? Thanks. Like I could see intervention being needed if a bully was using it to intimidate others, but these guys were both into it. No harm, no foul. ESL teacher here. So I teach high school ESL class where most of my students either don't speak any English or they speak very little. I had a student in there who was constantly disruptive and liked to bully the other kids to establish his manliness. One day, the disruptive kid is doing his normal annoying shtick, and out of nowhere, my quiet little Latina in the corner of the room, in the clearest pronounced English I have ever heard her speak, said, "You stupid motherfucker." I had to hold in a laugh. I then had a quick convo with her and congratulated her on the clear pronunciation, but also told her she couldn't say that in class. Edit. I fixed my grammar. I shouldn't write posts when I am half awake. Edit 2. Since people keep asking me, I did deal with the troublemaker after that lesson was over. I pulled him outside and gave him an ultimatum, and when he did it again, he got sent to ISS and school suspension. I just didn't include that part because it didn't have anything to do with the question. Also in high school, acknowledging the troublemaker in middle of his troublemaking just fuels the fire more, and sometimes, ignoring the kid at the moment and talking to him later works better. It's always the quiet ones. We're always planning and paying attention. When the quiet kids speak up to trash you, that's when you should know that you fucked up. And the thing is, most of the quiet kids are social recluses, and thus have way less experience in trash talking. Making whatever they say usually sounds silly. But a quiet kid telling you he doesn't care you broke your elbow hits harder than someone else telling he banged your mum. A classic. Quiet Latinas scare the shit out of me. In 9th grade our school got a vending machine for soft drinks and water. They all were damn expensive, €3 per 0.5 and the pledge, don't know if this is the right translation, money you get back when you return it, was €0.5. All students and most of the teachers said it was too expensive, and wanted it removed cause younger students spent all their lunch money on one Sprite. The machine had a return slot for the empty bottles. So we ripped one label of one bottle and printed it like 1,000 times. Every time someone wanted to drink something we put 6 copies of the little paper in the machine, and basically got a drink for free. It went down for about 2 weeks until one of the teachers caught us. We had to do detention, but a couple years after school we met him again, and he told us he really liked it cause the soft drinks were way too expensive anyway. Our church used to rent a lecture theater with a vending machine in the foyer. One morning as we were setting up and not paying much attention to the kids, they assembled a long, flexible column of those Texta-pens that clipped together, inserted it through the baffle at the bottom of the machine, and used it to fish bags of Doritos out of the machine. We had a little chat about the 8th commandment, but I don't think we could hide how impressed we were. Not a teacher, but I remember in high school kid fought off a bully, his 2 friends tried to help beat him up, and the kid beat all 3 of them up. Jumps on the one who started it, and beat him. Today, I learned he couldn't open either eyes. The coach who saw this pulls him off, and once settled down asked him, "Did you do all this to them yourself?" And the kid, still angry but pretty casually, goes, "And I'll fucking do it again if these douchebags haven't learned anything," and the coach goes, "You may have to, I think you hit them so hard they are going to have to learn their ABCs again too." Anyways, long story short, the kid got arrested and expelled. Never came back to school. But the coach said he was impressed and wished the kid only got suspended for a bit instead of expelled. I overheard the wrestling team saying that coach, and the coach who split it up, gymnastics coach, had the security footage, and would show it to their varsity teams. Only the initial bully got expelled too. He was a regular offender, hence why no one felt bad about his. His friends only got minor suspensions, because they were trying to break it up and come to a friend's aid. I went to a 5A high school. Pretty diverse. Lots of fights. Expelling a kid for defending himself is pretty gross. I mean, he may have went overboard, but expecting that level of control from a child is completely unrealistic. That's exactly why a zero-tolerance policy is nothing more but a zero-logic policy. Expelling a kid from the school for successfully defending himself is totally non-responding to real-life adult situations, and serves no other purpose than trying to enforce blind obedience to the law while ignoring common sense. I was suspended in the first week of secondary school, as they had a zero tolerance to fighting, and I defended myself when bullies tried to beat me up. I routinely lost those fights, but I always got suspended, even if I didn't throw a punch. One time, on an excursion, I got pushed to the ground and my head was kicked repeatedly. I did not have any opportunity to retaliate, but I was suspended and then banned from all excursions. Fuck zero tolerance policies. Honestly, if he was faced with 3 people who were all violent enough to want to take part in beating someone up, I think his response sounds reasonable. Once a fight like that starts, I think there's a sound argument for not stopping until it's well and truly finished. Zero tolerance exists because what it really means is zero liability. Teachers don't know the whole story, it's not often that they have any sort of proof, and it devolves into this he said she said bullshit. Rather than try to make any sort of judgment on the scenario and figure out which one of these little shitheads is lying, they just punish everybody equally. It's not fair, not by any means, but it's not about being fair. It's about protecting the school. Probably ruined the kid's life, too. Expulsion plus an arrest for presumably assault or battery does not look good on a permanent record. I was a student in class at the time, but we had this kid named Michael, and for whatever reason some of the other kids called him Mickle, pronounced like pickle. In music class, a room designed for sounds to travel, a kid passed a note to him that said, "I'll give you a nickel if you tickle my pickle, Mickle." And the music teacher snatched it and read it aloud. I don't think she realized what she read till it was too late, but I could tell she was holding in a giggle. A giggle. Does it count as prostitution if it's only for a nickel? I mean, it would only make sense. After grading an exam, I realized 2 students were cheating because they had the same answer. I knew who had copied since one of them had straight A all over the semester while the other was struggling. So, as I did not saw the cheat happening, I gave a chance to both come out and tell the truth and said, "Okay, the one who copied will receive 0, and the one who really did it will receive half the grade. So which of you really did the original answer?" I was expecting the cheater to come clean, or the A student to try to not get punished. The problem was that the cheater stayed in silence while the A student took the blame. Later that day, the A student called me to say his friend was going through hard times with his family and needed some help with his grades, so he helped. Edit. Just to explain how I handled the situation. Web address. Wait, why is there person who got copied punished at all? It can happen without consent. Faith in humanity restored. You didn't punish that angel, did you? In a school I used to work in as a net in Asia, there was a kid who was frequently in trouble, but at his core was a good kid. He was always late or failing exams, or not doing homework, or having arguments with teachers over stuff. He only argued if he genuinely felt the teacher was in the wrong at times. However, he was a genuine and funny kid, and just lacked motivation. He was also kind of picked on by a group of boys in his class. Now, as an English teacher, I assigned the kids into groups and asked them to write a song or rap or poem that they could perform for the class in English. This kid decided it was his chance to destroy the guys in his class picking on him. He whipped out a rap that wrecked them, which included 2 lines. "Get all the chicks, but it's hard to please with their tiny dicks." I had to punish him, but goddamn, I was impressed. Did you grade the students on the assignment? If so, then I am guessing you didn't grade the kids' bullies, as he already gave them a D. Teacher probably just set their papers on fire as a grade for those burns. A temporary punishment is worth a lifetime of victory. Mad respect. I taught computer science for 6 years in the UK. On this occasion I was teaching IT, and the task I had given them all that day was to design a logo for a shop that specializes in renting everything you could need for a school prom. Sounds great, right? So basically everyone apart from this one lad is doing great, this lad being one of those students that just takes the piss constantly and is often in trouble for random things. He's tough to keep motivated, but this lesson he's actually doing work. Amazing. He asks me to check out his work a few minutes later. What do I see? Prom Hub in the exact black and orange coloring of Pornhub on a rectangle background. Now, normally it's like, boom, detention, that's not appropriate, but there's literally no way this kid is going to have the power of knowing that I know what Pornhub is. They just cannot know that I know. So I am immediately blank face, say, oh yeah. Love the orange there, could you change the wording as well to maybe something that has a bit of alliteration? So solid orange, right, and name change slightly, nice work. Him and his mate were grinning like absolute madmen. I am not giving them this, no goddamn way was this going to crack me. I went to the office quick to grab a brew, and told my boss, who was on the floor laughing like. Anyway. Back in the lesson now, the same student asks me to check his workout again, whilst still grinning like a Cheshire cat. Directly in my face were the words "you prom." Once again I had to hold down that beast which wanted to burst out into manic laughter. I managed to poker face the shit out this and said, excellent work. You've really seemed to have enjoyed this lesson. And wrapped it up. I immediately told the rest of the department, and it was a favorite for sure. I informed the relevant safeguarding leads in school, as it's a mature reference that needs to be noted. They did follow up with the student about it, but I can't remember what happened. This is a great story to tell though, and my boss was in literal tears when I was telling it, so yeah, hope you lot enjoy. Great story, user throbbing anal bleed. Prom Hub. In high school, a male senior went to his girlfriend with a guitar and some other boys as chorus. It was Valentine's, so everyone thought it was love-filled melody for her. It was a ballad about how he found out she was fucking his best friend and tried to have sex with his older brother. The chorus kept repeating, "You're a slut. You're a slut." The senior boy and his chorus were suspended, but most of the teachers could not stop themselves from laughing every time the incident was brought up. I wish I could have seen it happen, that sounds absolutely hilarious. His older brother. Stone cold. Good thing it says tried. I am assuming he found out from the brother. I am not a teacher but a student who witnessed the whole event. Where I go to, you can get detention for drawing or vandalizing the school bathrooms. Anyways, a friend of mine who happened to be an artist himself thought it would be a good idea to paint the Mona Lisa on one of the bathroom stalls, and it was so impressive one might even think he copied and pasted the actual painting onto the stall. After lunch, everyone was gathering around to look at this masterpiece, and the school had to look at the security cameras to find the culprit, and they gave the kid a 2-day suspension plus having to clean up the painting, which is bull. I may still have a picture of the painting if I can find it. I would love to see this if you still have it. Our class teacher. Don't know what is the right word, he was basically the teacher responsible for us, really had to hold back his laughter when punishing a guy in my class. That dude managed to redneck engineer a smoke bomb that made the classroom unusable for 2 days, in like 15 minutes. We all probably inhaled not so healthy fumes that day, but damn, it was impressive, especially when comparing it to the YouTube tutorial he followed. My friend's dad tells the story of the time they were being taught how to make rotten egg gas in chemistry class, and the teacher unwisely left the room for something. The boys promptly dumped all the ingredients in the mix and decamped to the football field, where they watched the heavier-than-air gas fill the room and cascade down from the upper-story chemistry lab. It enveloped the classrooms beneath, all hell broke loose, and there was no more school that day. My sister is a teacher, and with my grade a year before I started attending that school, at my school my sister is 17 years older than me, She was almost my bio teacher in high school. She moved before then though. She teaching high school chemistry, and was showing the kids how to do an experiment involving batteries. She mistakenly mixed the chemical just wrong so that rather than making a simple battery, it started to emit chlorine gas, as in WW1 chlorine gas. She quickly realized what was going on and stuffed it into the chemical hood and turned on the fan. But similarly, there was no more school that day. My classmates still tell legends about the time that their teacher made chlorine gas in grade 10. Obligatory, not me, but I was there. Background: my principal was like mid-50s and always wearing suits. Christian high school II. He also had a lazy eye and a pot belly. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We have Spirit Week, and one of those days is Twin Day. So one kid decides to have a fucking mad lad day and dress up as our principal. Bonus points. He was the only kid at school with a lazy eye. So this little punk shows up in a suit, a pillow stuffed underneath his shirt for the pot belly, and just calmly sat at his desk. My principal, also doubling as math teacher, was turned doing problems on the board. He turns back, sees this punk-ass kid, turns back to the board, swallows the laugh, and turns back saying, "Better be glad I don't beat kids." Detention. Punk kid served detention still in his twin suit, pillow gut and all. Edit. The kid was a known prankster in class, and like many teens did not know where the line was drawn. Even though most of the stunts he pulled were hilarious. Such examples include dressing up in a girl's cheerleading uniform to cheer the basketball team leaving for a huge tournament, bringing Harry Potter to class band because it promoted witches and warlocks and demons, visited Rowling and told her the spells so the book was satanistic, lol. Also Pokemon was banned for promoting evolution. Got yo-yos banned for accidentally hitting a kid in class. Getting in a trash can and being wheeled around as he pretended to take pictures of people before sports games. Putting a fart machine under another student's desk and continually setting it off during a test. Sounds like my Christian school teacher, acting math teacher and all. HMM. Principal muffled a laugh and gave the mildest punishment possible. Kid and class enjoyed the clever joke for the day. Sounds well handled to me. Not a teacher, but when my mad lad English teacher was in school, he was voted in by his peers as prefect after he promised them vending machines and pool tables. He then told everyone that he lied about putting in vending machines and pool tables and explained why democracy is inherently flawed. And they say school doesn't teach you life lessons that will be relevant in real life. Explained why democracy is inherently flawed. Would you like to know more? Sounds like someone reads Starship Troopers. Teaching 8th grade reading is always an adventure, and I have so many stories that would fit. Usually 80 to 90% of my classes were the bad kids. Anyways, this one 8th grade dude was a jackass to literally everyone. He was aging out of 8th grade, so he knew no matter what he did he'd move on to high school. He was also one of the main bullies of the hallway. Parents always took his side, my sweet baby would never do that, etc. One day he told one of the girls in his class that she wasn't really black, they were both mix. The girl looked at him, looked at the line of teachers, shouted, "You know his parents won't let him get shit for that," and jumped him. And I mean really jumped him. By the time the teachers broke then up, she had a scratch on her arm, he had a black eye, a busted lip, bruises, etc. Apparently when they got to the office she jumped him again because he dared to look at her. They both ended up being suspended for 5 days. When he came back he was telling everyone he just didn't feel right fighting a girl. His track record said otherwise. So did the video. The 8th grade principal totally let all the 8th grade teachers see the video, and everyone cheered for her. While none of us condoned the fighting, we knew that it was the wake-up call he needed. If he had pulled that same shit at the high school, he very well may not have walked out. He didn't bully anyone the rest of the year, and his grades ended up going up by nearly 20 points in every class. The girl was basically treated as royalty by her classmates for the rest of the year. The fact that she jumped him again in the office because he hadn't learned yet, but he was damn well going to. I love this girl with all my heart. And the fact that the boy did learn and hopefully became a better person just makes the whole thing 100% awesome. I was the punished student. Here we have some little stick about 3 centimeters long and 5 millimeters diameter firecrackers that if you scratch them to rough surface it will create a little cracking sound. I invented a magnificent way to let them explode, put the firecrackers below a stone then fricking stomp it. Literally the sound was like a flat tire and actually a bit deafening. I tried it outside my class, the principal was walking by, the whole school heard it, every eyes were on me. The principal immediately dragged me to his office, threatening me to call the police. I was underage and firecrackers should only be used with adult supervision, and he did make a phone call. I started crying my tears out begging him not to call the police. Few years later I realized that he was calling his family in his local language and dialect. Few years later I realized that he was calling his family in his local language and dialect. This is hilarious. Sounds very Indian to me for some reason. My wife told me a story of how a kid put wax strips on his eyebrows and rat tash. Pube statch for those across the pond. Laughed her head off whilst telling him to pull them off. My old geography teacher told of a time his substitute class left the room in an extremely orderly fashion as soon as the bell rang. It was only a minute or two later he noticed that all other classes were still going on, and there was a tape recorder hidden in the windowsill. We did that with cell phones when they first became a thing. Teachers were not ready for the combo of technology and kids. Damn, I graduated in 04, before even texting was widespread. Missed out on seeing my teachers struggle against the onslaught of progress. My junior high was hacked 7 times by students that they knew of anyway, plus students would just text answers to each other under the desk, coordinate escapes from school, mass organize walkouts, and much more. But then by high school the darker side of the age of the internet started to rear its head. Rat tash. Pitiful little mustaches 13 years olds have before it's fully developed. Northern English term. Some kid was going to jump on a huge carton of milk and spray a group of 20 kids. Some genius kid quickly ran up and sprayed it backwards all over him. He was head to toe white, dripping with milk. First kid gets punished whilst covered in milk for instigating. I was working in a daycare, severely overworked with bad helpers and no teachers that day, all while all the doors were open because it was parents-teacher conference night. Had a mom come in, and we couldn't find her son. It started off casual, like oh he's probably in the bathroom, before we started panicking, realizing we couldn't find him. The problem was, the last person I saw him with was a boy he wasn't supposed to be hanging out with because the boy had physically attacked him the day before, so I didn't want the mom to know they were playing. So we spent the longest 10 minutes of my life searching for this kid, before the bully boy knocks him out of an art cart, where he had hidden. As his mom broke down in tears he casually explained that he was playing hide and seek against the bully. The mom was too happy she didn't care he was playing with the bully. Also thankful that I worked with this kid in another program, so his mom knew this wasn't my fault. Was impressed that that kid stayed hidden even as we screamed his name, and equally impressed that the bully found the kid in a near impossible spot to find him. How old were these kids? Boy in my class senior's US high school came to school in a Playboy shirt with a fully naked woman on the front. I sent him to the office to change and he came back pissed. I told him to sit down and continue his work. He kept grumbling, and then suddenly stood up and said to the entire class, raise your hand if you don't think my shirt is offensive, and you think it's bullshit that I had to change before I could say anything. A girl at another table whipped around and completely went off on him. She was saying, yes, I found your shirt offensive. No, you're not as rebellious or as cool as you think. You're selfish and think that buying from the Playboy brand makes you a playboy with your greasy-ass hair and beer belly at 18. Shut the fuck up and don't wear pictures of naked women on your t-shirt. Is there a single woman in this class that finds you or that shirt attractive? And then a long pause as we all sat there in silence. The boy was a major ass and gross, and I felt everything the girl said, but I still had to talk to both of them about disruptions and yelling at the class. Not the teacher, but I was the kid. In class with two friends, and we're being the usual 15-year-old assholes that just want to disrupt the class for no particular reason. We eventually decree that we'll just leave. Teacher declares loudly that we'll be suspended if we walk out the door, so we cross the room and jump out the window instead. Unsurprisingly, we end up in the principal's office in fairly short order, where said principal walks in and takes a seat at his desk, fixing the three of us with his most practiced look of being unimpressed. Principal: Gentlemen, any reason why I shouldn't suspend you all immediately? Me in moment of inspiration: Well, we certainly didn't disobey the teacher. Principal, eyebrow raised: And how do you come to that conclusion, sinking Quiken? Me: We were told that we would be suspended if we were to walk out the door, and we never did, but I think it's fair to point out we were never told we couldn't jump out the window, which we actually did instead. Principal removes glasses and displaying a superhuman effort to contain a no doubt immense rage: Sinking Quiken, you all possibly make a good lawyer one day, however today is not that day, get out of my sight. Please tell me you're a lawyer now. No, I am not, though I have represented myself twice in legal proceedings, and won on both occasions against lawyers. Not a teacher, but a memory from high school. Freshman, history class. I am sitting in the back with my bud, and I got the idea to whisper masturbate in my bud's ear next to me. So I do, once. Then again a few minutes later. And again a few minutes later. Lather, rinse, repeat. After about 12 minutes, he goes, dude shut up, and the teacher goes, hey, you two, stop talking. He keeps whispering masturbate in my ear. Room bursts into laughter, including teacher, and amazingly neither of us were punished. But I was known as classroom masturbator for the rest of the year. I didn't get a lot of chicks that way. I am a student and the teacher didn't see, but I got to see a kid in my class wall run like 5 feet, and jump off the wall, accidentally landing a perfect kick in another kid's privates. My imagination might be a bit whack, but I am imagining a kid running against the wall like James Bond, leaping off, and putting a perfectly sharp boot heel in a dude's balls. All while wearing a tuxedo, 'cause why not? Wow! You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.